In May 1996, an old lady from the village of Kaalinovo went to the well at night to draw water. There was a terrible thunderstorm outside. Through the gusts of wind and thunder, the woman heard strange sounds. Going to them, she found an unusual creature that didn't look like a human. He had a grey skin and an elongated head with large eyes. And also the lower jaw was completely absent. Tamara brought him home and cared for him as if he were her own child. She fed him condensed milk and candy, swaddled him and talked to him. She gave him the name Alyoshenka. The humanoid didn't have an excretory system. Instead, a jelly-like liquid appeared on its skin, which had to be whipped off. There was a strong, unusual sweet smell coming from him. There are testimonies from relatives and some of Tamara's neighbors that confirm this. However, soon the neighbors learned about the strange creature and took Tamara Prosverina to a local psychiatric hospital. It's believed Alyoshenka was left alone at home and died of hunger. Later, Alyoshenka's body was found by a friend of Tamara. For some reason, he decided to dry it in the sun and kept it with him. One day he came to the attention of the police, due to suspicion of stealing a copper cable which he planned to sell. He handed the mummy to police officer Vladimir Bendlin. Around this time, the public learned about Alyoshenka. They began to write about him often in newspapers. He received the nickname Kyshtym Dwarf. The doctors and experts to whom Vladimir showed the body said it couldn't belong to a human. The anatomy was too different. He wanted to open a criminal case, to understand the nature of the strange creature and do a DNA test. He was denied this because there were too many unsolved cases. Therefore, Vladimir kept the body in his freezer. Despite the protests of his wife, who feared it might be contaminated with something. Vladimir contacted the ufological community called UFO Contact from the city of Kamenets-Uralsk. Within a few hours they arrived to Vladimir in two cars. One was a BMW of the latest model and the second was an AK. In those days a new BMW was a rarity, especially in such a small village as Kaalinovskaya. Therefore, Bendlin got the impression the organization was serious. They took the mummy and all the documents were kept by Vladimir. Later they got in touch, said it was a real alien and disappeared. Journalists from Japan came to the village to film a documentary about this mysterious story. However, the body disappeared. And the main witness, Tamara Prosverina, was hit by a truck as soon as she was discharged from a hospital. There were attempts to search for the remains of Alyoshenka. A large reward was assigned for them, but this didn't lead to anything. The trace of the alien was completely lost. In the 19th there was an auction lot offering to buy the mummy of Alyoshenka, but no one knows whether it was real or not. In 2004 a major Russian channel REN TV released a documentary about these events, where everything was retold in details. This is how the story is usually told. Everything really works out very logically. An unknown creature appears and tragically dies. Experts cannot understand who it was during life. The main witness also dies under strange circumstances. And the alien's body is stolen by strange people who look like men in black. But in fact, there are a lot of details in the story of Kyshtym Dwarf. Conspiracy theorists prefer not to talk about or turn a blind eye to. Hello everyone, my name is... And today we will try to understand what the Kyshtym Dwarf Alyoshenka really was. Strange things begin at the stage of discovering an unknown creature. According to one version, Tamara found Alyoshenka at night in the cemetery, when he made telepathic contact with her. The alien's look is also described in different ways. For example,
Значит, выглядел с серым, абсолютно кожаные покровы были серого цвета, такой немножко студенистый был на внешний вид, мягкий. Также ее поразило, что, значит, как она объяснила, у него был кошачий зрачок вертикальный, отсутствие ушной раковины. Волосяного покрова она не заметила, вот цвет кожи странный, конечно, был серый. Потом она сказала, что один глаз у него был, значит, черный, другой красный.
According to other sources, he was also described as blue-eyed.
Рот жует, глаза такие узкие губы, чисто инопланетяне. Да, голубы, именно, врать не буду никогда. Я смотрю, точно сидит. Сидит, врать не буду, клянусь Богом. Клянусь имя покойной матери. Дело не выдумать. Но потом уже рассмотрел. А он что-то жует. Так, он жует, но весь волосатый. Такой, да, волосатый именно. Врать не буду.
Why such differences in the description of the alien's look?
Он назначил, как подлещик сухой. Вот лещи я, рыбак сам. Высушенный, но головка мне что-то удивила. А тут череп у его такой, вот такой луковицей.
After all, Tamara spent a lot of time with him. She probably should have described him correctly. But in reality, she couldn't do it. Tamara had acute schizophrenia and was constantly confused in her thoughts. We know about her diagnosis from the words of Любовь Галицкого, who was one of the doctors who took Tamara Просвирина to the clinic.
Она развернула эту тряпочку и всем показывала, что вот это я, Алёшенька, что она его не оставит, не бросит, потому что его кормить надо, он умрет от голода. Так.
Но вы не поверили?
Нет, я не поверила. А можно поверить словам такой больной, с острой шизофренией?
So, her words cannot be considered reliable. This also explains what Tamara could be doing at night in the cemetery. There is information she collected various things from the graves.
И что она бывает, ходит по кладбищам, собирает с памятников, значит, разные веночки, там, снимает даже вот с брошенных памятников фотографии на металле, там, все это приносит в дом.
The documentary from REN-TV also tells everything from Tamara's words. The film is very well shot and interesting to watch. They interviewed all the participants in the events, except Tamara, who was already died by that time. They all claim Alyoshenka's body was unusual and most likely he wasn't human. But what if not everyone? What if there was a person who for some reason wasn't invited to the filming? For example, Irina Uskova, who at that time worked as an obstetrician gynecologist at a local hospital. She was among those people who examined the Kyshtym dwarf. Here's her quote.
They came to my work and brought with them some kind of greasy small package. They put it on a couch.
Please look what this is.
I looked and said it was some kind of old miscarriage. It was not a skeleton, it was some kind of small half-rotten mummy. Without skin, without anything. The muscles were tight around the bones in some places. The skull consisted of 3 bones, like a helmet. This syndrome is called Pfeiffer syndrome.
However, this wasn't in the film. Probably because this is conflicted with the conspiracy theory. They also didn't show the faces of other witnesses who allegedly saw Alyoshenka alive. Here I must tell you what REN-TV is. Here's a fragment of one of their programs. I didn't change anything in it.
Совсем недавно увидела статью, которая описывает мадагаскарскую птицу, которая несет яйца, но вынашивает их в сумке на своем теле. Как она это делает, я так все-таки до сих пор не могу себе представить.
And they absolutely seriously stated, mammoths became extinct because the Russians made dumplings from them.
Однако мало кто знает, что задолго до них у нас в Воронежской области, в деревне Костенки, а ей 40 тысяч лет на минуточку, хозяйки прекрасно приготавливали пельмени из мяса мамонта, которое было и жирным, и полезным. Что ж, мамонты вымерли, а пельмени на улице Лизюкова готовят до сих пор.
In general, the source is dubious. But another channel also made a documentary about this story, this time it was NTV. It was in this documentary that Irina Uskova was interviewed, and also interviewed everyone who allegedly saw Alyoshenka alive. And looking at these faces, you can understand why their TV channel didn't show them. Most likely it wasn't possible to catch them sober. They can't even speak clearly. I know Russian very well, and it's difficult for me to understand what they're trying to say. One important witness, Nina Glazyrina, claims to have seen the alien alive. True, according to her own fame, she was drunk that day.
Вы пришли, я так понимаю, выпили, да?
Ну, естественно.
At this time, her husband, who looked like drugged, is shouting from the next room.
Кто приперся? Этот крокодил ничего не скажет.
And she died a few weeks after this interview from alcohol intoxication. By the way, UFOs are often seen in Kyshtym.
Вот этот колодец всю нашу улицу осветило. Вот как прожекторы какие-то. И в сторону радиозавода летело. Ну так медленно. Ну, я не могу сказать, сколько высотой. Ну, низко.
Что летело?
Is this related to widespread drunkenness? I think the answer is clear. Of course, it's difficult to say anything now, but I can imagine this story is even more creepy than it seems. The dwarf was found in the Chelyabinsk region, which is one of the most polluted in Russia. And near Kyshtym in 1957, the largest nuclear disaster in Russia occurred. A container of plutonium exploded at a military plant. There also located the largest Europe's radioactive waste processing plant. Even the film from REN-TV says mutations among newborn children occur quite often there.
Зафиксировано несколько случаев. В частности, рождался ребенок с ластами. Был случай, когда родилась девочка, у которой, отсутствовала прямая кишка, задний проход, она умерла.
We can only guess about the real scale of this disaster. But it's known Kyshtym has its own museum of body anomalies with mutant babies. And mutated fish without fins and eyes are often caught from local lakes.
Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3.
Most likely Tamara Prasvirna found the miscarriage and decided it was alive. Cause she had a mental illness. She tried to feed him. And the strange liquid on the skin was cadaveric secretions, appeared during decomposition. This can also explain weird sweetish smell some witnesses mentioned. This is what rotten flesh smells like. The woman was discharged from the hospital. There was no one to look after her. And after some time she went out onto the road at night and dance. There she was hit by a car and immediately died. Scientists at the Institute of General Genetics in 2002 received the tissue, in which the alien's body was wrapped, and were able to do a DNA test. They confirmed he was a human with a number of developmental disabilities. Research also claims Alyoshenka was a girl. The strangest and most mysterious thing in this story is the moment with the unknown people, who took the mummy of the alien Alyoshenka. Some Russian ufologists believe Alyoshenka was stolen by American intelligence services. One of them, Alexei Korolev, the main ufologist of the Ural. And Alyoshenka is now somewhere in Washington, probably in one of the desk drawers in the Oval Office. Yes, I also didn't know ufologists have a hierarchy. I don't think they were American secret agents. But if I'm wrong and these were really evil people from Washington, listen to me. Bring Alyoshenka home. People miss him and even hold annual events in his memory. And they made movie based on his story. If you are interested in this, I even can recommend it to watch. Vladimir Bendlin claims the mummy fell into the hands of some sect, whose members performed some rituals with it. And indeed such a sect exists. It's headed by Boris Zolotov. They practice strange rituals and healing methods. And also believe aliens have visited the Earth. Boris himself confirmed that the Kyshtym dwarf eventually came into his hands. He refused the $200,000 offered to him by the Japanese, because his sect is already very rich. This is where the story of the most famous Russian alien, the Kyshtym dwarf Alyoshenka, ends. Unfortunately, it was not the story of E.T., it more like a wrong turn. Thanks for watching, but now my time is over.
Да. Ну вот вас в больницу положили, и он умер. Вот мы сейчас и приехали посмотреть.
Funkel, funkel, kleiner Stern, Kirby hat dich ja so gern. Tanz mit mir durch Kirbyland, nehm dich fröhlich an die Hand.